Witness the colossal boxing showdown nobody expected, live on Netflix. International superstar Jake Paul, the sport's most watched fighter, takes on Britain's two-time unified heavyweight world champion and Olympic gold medalist, Anthony A.J. Joshua, in the most dangerous and defining matchup of their careers. This is Judgment Day. Watch Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua, Friday, December 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, live on Netflix.
When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite. Obey your thirst.
Every Who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. You're ready to move your business forward, but first, you need to find the right team. Start your search with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It can help you reach qualified candidates fast, ensuring your listing is the first one they see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. See the results for yourself. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing the protection of an offensive guard on the football field, but getting an elementary school crossing guard. Sure, they're both guards, but you can only trust one to keep your quarterback safe when the game is on the line. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to episode number 780 of the Duke Basketball Roundup. We're coming to you on Wednesday, December 17th, early in the morning. Donald Wine here. I'm your host for this episode. I have Jason Evans with me. Jason, we watched this game in different ways last night. I watched this game live. You had to watch it a little delayed. Why don't you tell the people why you were so delayed in watching this game and why we have to record on this Wednesday morning?
Yeah, we were talking about doing this on Tuesday night, but I had something. As folks know, I'm a film critic in addition to being someone who talks about Duke basketball and working at CNN, all those other kind of things. I got so many things going on in my life. So I saw the new Avatar movie last night. It is more than 3 hours long. The screening started at 7 o'clock. I had to get there early because they had all these rules for, how they were going to admit you and things like that. So I didn't get to watch this game until like 11 p.m. last night. And so it was too late for us to record. Donald, do you want to know how the new Avatar movie is?
No, because I'm not going to let you spoil it for me. I'm going to read your 100-word review later on. So maybe after I watch it. But it's funny. I haven't seen the second one. I've only seen the first one. And the going rate with when they rebooted this series was everyone was like, Avatar is the most watched movie ever. And no one can tell you a single line from it, right? Like that was the joke about the first Avatar. But it's taken on this whole other world that's kind of trying to emerge in this post-Avengers Endgame Marvel Cinematic Universe like void that everyone's trying to fill with their various universes. So I'm looking forward to seeing it at some point.
It's a truly gorgeous film, and you're transported to another world. There's no question about that. I'm not sure James Cameron on his third time around, as we get into like hours 7, 8, 9 or so of being in Pandora now through the movies. I'm not sure he has a lot more to say about that world and stories to tell about these characters. He's such a brilliant filmmaker. I kind of wish he would do something different at this point. He's so innovative. He's so smart about storytelling. And I think being in the same place 3 films in a row now. He's kind of run out of things to say, but it is, I mean, like, it looks like nothing else on film.
I'll tell you what Avatar needs in Pandora. Dominic Toretto. Dominic Toretto can take them to any world that they want to go to. Speaking of worlds, let's get into our world, Jason, of Duke basketball. And we'll talk a little bit later about, maybe 12, 13 guys that should join us back in this Duke world. Duke took on Lipscomb last night in Cameron Indoor Stadium, and 97-73. When's the last time you said after a 24-point win? Don't email us about that. That's been a long time since we've had to say that. They improved to 11-0, but it was very, very sloppy. We'll talk about the sloppiness after the break. But the great thing, Jason, is with this win, Jon Scheyer becomes the fastest ACC coach to 100 wins in his career. He does it in 122 games, just 6 games shy of Vic Bubas, who was the leader at 128 games. So a couple of Dukies remain at the top of this list. Jason, we begin as we generally do with the headlines, and we got a few good headlines.
Actually, wait.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before we hit the headlines, can I do a little thing on Scheyer getting to 100 wins?
Of course, yeah.
I mean, seeing as we're in this ballpark, it's worth noting the only coach sort of in the past 45, 50 years who has gotten to 100 wins faster than Jon Scheyer. We said fastest in ACC history. But if you look at the rest of college basketball, at least Division I college basketball, the only guy who got there faster was Brad Stevens, who got to 100 wins in 120 games. Jon Scheyer takes 122. But Brad Stevens, sort of among young coaches, that's good company to be in. Even and he did it at a non-power conference, which is, very, very different. I did think one of the things Scheyer said after the game really stuck with me. And Scheyer is he's so grounded. He is so quick to point to others as opposed to himself. Selfless, I guess you would say about him. He said, this is not about me. It's who you have with you that gets you to 100 wins. He said, and look, I know we've got to fight, we've got to scrap, we've got to claw for every single win. He said 100 is really cool, but he goes, I played Tom Izzo last week. He's got 700 wins. He goes, there's a guy standing on the baseline, Coach K, who's got 1,200 wins. He goes, now that's crazy. Like 100, he's like, put it in perspective. And he also said he was just, really proud of the staff, the players. He said he was just totally grateful for all these people. And it's, again, not about him. It's about the people around him that got to 100 wins. And I just thought it's worth highlighting how you can't get this guy to even say, yeah, I did it. Like, he's like, no, everybody else around me did it with me.
He got some nice shoes from Nike that commemorated his 100th win. And if we're in the spirit of giving since the holiday season and with all these people that have been along the ride, Jon Scheyer, I'm a size 11. You can email us for those shoes. Also, Jason, you mentioned Coach K. He mentioned the fact that Coach K is sitting on the baseline with 1,200 wins. At this current pace, Jon Scheyer needs 39 more years of coaching to catch Coach K. So hang in there, Coach.
Are you kidding me? Come on.
Hang in there. We're with you. We're with you for the next 39 to get close to the GOAT. Jason, okay, let's get to the headlines as we generally do. And I want to start with a couple because one of the big things that we're going to talk about in the next part, or at least in the stuff to improve, are the turnovers. And so we got a lot of emails about turnovers. I start with Jim Baumgartner, who wrote, "It's Cameron Indoor Bakery as Duke serves 22 turnovers to Brilliant Bisons." And again, credit to Lipscomb for coming out and playing the way they did and giving us this bizarre test that we didn't think we would get in the aftermath of the exam break.
I saw one really good. I read a few of the turnovers, a few of the headlines. I couldn't read all of them, but I saw one that I really liked that made light of the turnovers. Lee Maxson said even Betty Crocker thought there were too many turnovers.
Yeah,
I thought that
I like
hysterical.
That
one. and Paula Anderson, I'm not going to read her headline, but she called it the annual Rust Bowl. She's right about that. You could just see the rust on Duke.
Yeah, it's funny. I did have Paula's listed, buried in bison patties. Duke finally finds his footing. If you know what bison patties are, you know that there was a difficult first half to get through. John Gretlin, who always writes us and is so great to send us a bunch. He said, Rusty Devils find a way to prevail over Lipscomb by son of Carlos Boozer. I think talking about actually both of his sons we'll talk about in this game as well. And Jason, I'll end with this one from Jason Perkins. It was quite simply the ugliest 24-point win of all time. That was his headline. This was a pretty ugly game in the beginning, but let's start with the good stuff because that's what we like to focus on the positive first. And Jason, I want to lead with instead of a general theme that we normally do, I want to lead with 3 players because of this theme of turnovers. Caleb Foster, 8 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block. Malik Brown, 11 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. And Darren Harris, 11 points, 1 rebound, 2 assists, and 2 steals. All 3 of them combined for 0 turnovers as well. But I also thought that those 3, at various points of the game, were sparks or provided sparks for this team to help us get back over the hump that was Lipscomb and then finally eventually pull away.
I completely agree with you about the guys who stood out. I especially thought Darren Harris. Look, Darren gets 21 minutes in this game, and part of it was Nick Hemenia went down with, it bumped his head. I'm sure they checked him out for a concussion just to make sure. He came back later, so that seems fine. Although, man, it seems like Nick is sort of the master of I get roughed up a little bit and things like that, but then I'm going to come back and play anyway. So Darren got minutes, I think, because Nick got a little banged up, because honestly, Dame has not been playing great lately, and we'll get more to that later on. And sort of Duke was looking for someone else on that wing. But for Darren Harris, who's been the 9th man for this team all year long, to come in and play the way he did, play with the confidence that he did. It wasn't just 3-point shooting, though he buried a couple very nice 3-pointers. It was like getting on the floor. There was a play where it looked like Lipscomb, it was a loose ball. Lipscomb absolutely had it, and Darren just laid out to get it. He didn't end up getting it, but it was the kind of effort play that the coaches were like, hell yes, that is what we want to see from all these guys. I thought Darren did a great job of getting in the lane and trying to find his teammates. He had 2 assists. Frankly, he could have had at least 2 or 3 more where guys missed shots that he set them up for. This was revelatory for Darren Harris. I think easily he's had games where he's hit more threes, but it's mostly come late when the game was non-competitive. That was not the case here. Darren Harris was playing when Duke was down. Darren Harris was playing when this was a very competitive game and playing really well and being an important part of the offense and the defense. His defense is so improved from a year ago. It's like night and day. So I thought Darren was great. I love that you picked out Cephas. Is it just me, Donald? Did it feel like anytime Caleb wanted, he could kind of go to the goal and get a bucket? Like he didn't really want to do it all that much.
Yeah. I was going to say that he felt in the most helter-skelter of games we've played in a while. He felt the most in control of anybody on the team. When he had the ball, he had sure hands. He made sound decisions with the basketball. As you mentioned, there was many times he could have driven to the lane, and maybe the only drawback from that is that he was a little too unselfish at times. And there was times where I was kind of saying to the TV, like, "No, Caleb, that's yours. Go get it." That's
I agree.
The easy bucket is you going to the rack, not you trying to pass out for a 3. And again, he was trying to get his teammates involved. He was helping on the glass. Him and Malik Brown, I thought were very, and Darren Harris were also active in passing lanes on defense. Darren Harris, you mentioned the hustle that he had. There's a couple of times where he was, in the corner guarding somebody, and the ball was skipped over to a wide open person on the opposite wing, and the person who closed out on him was Darren Harris, coming from where the ball came from, closing out on a 3-pointer. He didn't always get it, but again, that hustle was what I was looking at. And I thought that he did a great job of keeping guys in front of him. Malik Brown, as he so normally does, he's kind of like sung and unsung at the same time whenever he plays, because we kind of expect him to do the deflections and we expect him to get the rebounds and the steals. But I've never ceased to be amazed by how effortless he does it. And in this game, again, when there was a lot of things going on, a lot of chaos, and we needed some sparks, I thought those 3 guys in different ways provided sparks to help us, again, creep back towards it, get, kind of level our footing. We got ahead at halftime because I thought those three guys were really active. And then in the second half, as we eventually started to pull away, it was those three that kept us going. And when other guys were making mistakes or maybe getting into lapses, they were the ones pulling this team back together.
Well, look, and the guy I haven't mentioned yet in your trio of heroes is Malik Brown. Leads the team with 6 offensive rebounds. He got 11 points. I think I'm going to say at least 8 of them, and maybe 10 were offensive rebound putbacks, where he was right place, right time, being aggressive around the goal. And we're going to get to the turnovers. As much as the turnovers are sort of the negative story of this game, the rebounding is the positive story of this game. At one point, Donald, late in the second half, Duke led in rebounds 50-15. I don't think I've ever seen a rebounding 50-15. That's absurd. That's ridiculous. We finished the game at 55-21. We out-rebounded them by 34. But to say that we dominated the boards doesn't even do it justice. We had 20 offensive rebounds. They had 3. We won second chance points 26-0, 26-0 on second chance points. Let's be clear. If Duke doesn't just absolutely destroy them on the boards, if we don't have all these guys grabbing offensive rebounds, Cameron with 4, Patrick with 4, Malik with 6, if we don't do that kind of stuff, Duke's probably losing this game because of the turnovers. So thank you rebounding. It was super, super important. Cam ends up with 13 rebounds. Pat had 11. Malik had 9. Cephas had 6. It was just all, by the way, Cephas again was just swooping in there and grabbing so many of them. He does that all the time. It was the key to, in a game where you're rusty, in a game where you can't shoot, in a game where you can't pass, at least you can grab the damn ball when it comes off the rim.
Yeah. I also think it just contributed to the fact that inside, once we figured out that our interior presence was better than theirs, we went after it. Like in paint points, we outscored them 56-30. That's a huge disparity. And that's kind of helped when we decided to stop shooting a bunch of threes that were maybe ill-advised and going more inside. Now, we missed a few, but I think the presence there was we need to be tougher. And we were getting the rebounds because we were bigger than them and we were, in better positions. But the rebounds that they did get over us in the first half was because they were just pushing us around. And I think after the game, John Shire mentioned the fact that, hey, we need to be a little bit tougher. We need to be a little bit more physical. We need to show that we were the better team because Lipscomb wasn't going to let us be the better team. That's where I think that grit, that hustle, that determination really helped out in the form of these three. And I also think with the rebounding, that's something that I think carries over, right? We can always have a great defensive rebounding game, but I think limiting Lipscomb to just 3 offensive rebounds, 7.9%, that's astounding. So I really liked the fact that we were able to do that.
The other thing I wanted to mention, the good, and this is going to seem a little bit crazy. I thought our defense was fairly good. Look, there were sometimes the rotations were off at times. The announcers, Randolph Childress, was pointing out there were some times where the Lipscomb guards would get around a guy and there was no one in the middle. But for the most part, I thought our defense was fairly good when we weren't giving them easy fast break points. Lipscomb averages more than 80 points per game, and we held them to 73. Duke has now held every single opponent this year, every single one of them, under their season scoring average. It wasn't like a great defensive game, but considering the team has not practiced much in recent days, I thought we struggled on defense early. In the second half especially, we just looked like a team that we're focusing better, communicating a little bit better, and playing the kind of Duke defense that this team is hanging its hat on. Donald, one of the remarkable things about this team this year is Duke's defense is currently number 3 in KenPom. Our offense is 10th. That's just, it's super unusual for a Duke team to be a lot better on defense than they are on offense. Now, look, the 10th best offense is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. But the defense has really been next level for this bunch. And, other than a few let-ups, I thought we saw a lot of good defense in this game.
And that defense, the defensive numbers you mentioned on KenPom have flipped in the last couple of weeks, because early in the first 2 to 3 weeks, it was our offense pacing our defense, at least on the metrics. And then, ever so recently during that 3-game run against ranked teams that we played, ending with the Michigan State game, that's when our defense flipped to being the stronger of the two, with at least KenPom's analytics.
Actually, last thing I wanted to mention in the good, at least from me, is Big Pat. We already said he had 11 rebounds. He had 10 points. First double-double of his career. Had a couple block shots, including a really, really impressive one. I thought Pat, the announcers mentioned, and they clearly got this from talking to the Duke staff, that they want to feed Pat more and more. He missed a couple bunnies, but he mostly cleaned them up once he missed them. I like that Duke recognizes that Pat is a real weapon on the inside. We mentioned in the preview, for folks who didn't listen to the preview, a lot of what happened in this game were things that Donald and I talked about as possibilities. One of the things we talked about was that Lipscomb is a big team. They're, for a mid-major, they have guys who 6'10", 6'11", fairly beefy. They are not, the easy pushover. Like, Pat didn't get this double-double against a team that was playing a 6'7", 215-pound center. He was playing against a real guy. And so that's why I was impressed. I thought Pat had a nice game, and I like the notion that Duke is going to continue to look to him. Donald, you and I and Jordan Brenner talked a little bit about how desperately Duke needs a number 2 guy. I'm not sure that we figured it out yet. It's something we probably don't figure out for sure until mid-January or February at least, because it looks like there are a lot of different candidates and a lot of different guys need to get to be more consistent. But I'm starting to think that Pat could be maybe that guy. It's sort of Pat and Isaiah are the 2 main candidates at the moment. But I like what I saw from Pat at many times in this game. I wish we would look for him even more.
You mentioned the second scorer and the leader in the clubhouse at the beginning of the season was Isaiah Evans, and Slim, at least last night, increased another stat. Duke is 17-0 when Slim makes at least 3 threes in a game. Last night he was 4 for 7. And again, we'll talk about some of the other stuff, but I just want to note, we have not yet talked about Cam Boozer, and he had 26 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. We're going to talk about why we haven't talked about him after the break. So, Jason, let's take a quick break. We're going to get to the bad, and baby, fire up the oven. It's turnovers on the menu.
Hey, the holidays are almost here, and if you have names still on your list, don't panic. Uncommon Goods makes holiday shopping stress-free and joyful. With thousands of one-of-a-kind gifts you can't find anywhere else, you'll discover presents that feel meaningful and personal, never rushed or last minute.
Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, from moms and dads to kids and teens, from book lovers and sports fans to foodies, mixologists, and gardeners. You'll find unforgettable gifts that are anything but ordinary. And perhaps most importantly, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. Every purchase is a chance to choose something remarkable and feel good about where your money goes.
Look, so don't wait. Make this holiday of the year you give something truly unforgettable. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/DukeBB. That's uncommongoods.com/DukeBB and get 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary.
Here's my 30-second story with Guinness. As soon as my sister and I get home for the holidays, we don't even unpack. We head straight to our pub. The bartender already knows our order, Guinness and fries. We laugh all night, catch up with old friends, and walk home with faces sore from smiling. It's one of my favorite nights of the year. That was my 30-second story with Guinness.
Guinness Draft Stout. Please enjoy responsibly. Imported by Diageo Beer Company, USA, New York, New York.
We're only a few weeks in, and the season is already wild. Stars are going off, freshmen are making noise, and the action doesn't stop. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is where you can get in on all of it for pro and college basketball.
Yeah, and don't forget the holiday tournaments and the Emirates NBA Cup. Big moments, big matchups, and a whole lot on the line. Don't miss out. Jump in and bet on the action today.
So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DukeBB. That's code DUKEBB. Bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
This episode is brought to you by McAfee.
Finish your fantasy lineup?
No, but I'm joining this paid group chat with insider info.
Dude, seriously? Forward it to me. Security alert from McAfee. That group's as legit as that knockoff jersey you're wearing.
McAfee's scam detector is available in all McAfee plans for as little as $39.99 for your first year. Learn more at McAfee.com/online protection.
Oh, Hilton stay, your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay, a holiday you're saving.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. This season, enjoy spacious, comfortable rooms and friendly service when you book with Hilton instead. Hilton for the stay.
All right, we are back, and we turn our attention to the things we need to improve from this game. And in a 24-point game, you're thinking, oh, you're grasping at straws. No, not this time. There's a really big thing that we need to talk about, and it's the fact that Duke had 22 turnovers. When we talked in the preview, Jason, about rust, we were kind of leaning towards the shooting because usually that's where the rust presents itself, is shooting. And we didn't have a great shooting game, but I thought it was fine for a game coming off of 10 days rest. The rust showed itself in the form of sloppy play and turnovers, and it was ever present after we went on a 10-0 run to start the game. We think, okay, rust. I mean, we had people texting us, rust cured, right? Like didn't seem fine to us. And we were talking with our friend Bobby and Jason. I know you were watching the movie, so it was really Bobby and I texting, and he was like, hey, we're kind of a little sloppy on a couple of these things. And then 5 minutes later, he's like, okay, our rust is clearly in the turnovers and the sloppy play, because that was the story of this game. That's why Lipscomb got out to he went on a 26-6 run after that 10-0 start for Duke. They were up 10 points on Duke, which is the largest deficit we have suffered all season long. And it took to literally the end of the first half for us to creep back into it and take a lead that we then had to fight for a couple minutes in the second half to really pull ahead and go forward.
Donald, there's rust, and then there's just being careless, being foolish. The number of bad passes and sloppy dribbles in this game was unlike anything I've seen from a Duke team. I've been watching Duke basketball since the early 1980s. I don't think I've ever seen a Duke team as casual and careless. There's just no other word for it than careless. Lipscomb got 12 steals in this game, and I don't want to put them down, but the steals were not because Lipscomb was some super aggressive, special defense kind of guys or something like that, playing super high level defense. We were just throwing the ball to them. We were dribbling and handing it to them at times, making passes that would hit the Lipscomb guys in their hands. They were just sticking their hands out very normally, and the pass would just hit them in their hands. Our turnover rate, God, Donald, our turnover rate in this game was 26.7%.
Mm-hmm.
Florida, the game against Florida, we had an 18.4% turnover rate and felt completely different. But the gulf between 26 and 18%, we haven't had, Duke usually is at 13% turnover rate or lower than that. Duke had 16 turnovers the first 15 minutes of this game. That's ridiculous. That's absurd. Now, we woke up a bit. We only had 6 turnovers in the second half, even though some of them were really bad.
Those are also bad, but yeah.
Yeah.
And they were early on,
way,
too.
By the way, 6 feels good, but Donald, remember my threshold. 12. 12 in a game is mine. I say if Duke is under 12 turnovers in a game, Duke's almost certainly going to win. If we're over 12, then you start to worry. 6 in the second half that we're like, oh, that was better. That's
right on pace
for my worry number. For us to have 16 turnovers in the first half, in the first 15 minutes of the first half, it was unbelievable to watch. And you were seeing it. And you couldn't. I don't know what Shire said at halftime to the guys. And it's not that they played like out of their minds better in the second half, but I can't imagine. I can't imagine what he would have said to them in the locker room. Not being mad or anything, but just like, are you guys awake? Are you here? Like there were some of the passes it was like they were playing, like they didn't realize there was a defense out there and they were making a casual pass in practice. And then poof, a defender appeared and intercepted it. It was inexplicably awful. Duke will not beat another power conference team. There's no other well, maybe BC. There are very few power conference teams we could play and beat playing the way we played against Lipscomb.
So I do want to give Lipscomb credit because I think they came out, again, we said in the preview they were not going to be blinded by the lights. They play big teams all the time. They were in the NCAA tournament last year. Like, this is a team, and from what we saw, like, I would not be surprised to see Lipscomb in the dance this year. I think one thing that they did, Jason, that I think kind of surprised us is when we went on the 10-0 run and we started getting sloppy, they decided to go faster. Do you know how many possessions we had last night? 82. That is far and away the fastest paced game we've played this year. And Jason, this is something that we say, like, Duke wants to run. They want teams to fire up shots. They want teams to make bad decisions with the basketball. But it was us.
Dude. You know why we had 82 possessions? There were at least 6 possessions where Lipscomb got a steal and got a layup in 3 seconds.
That's my point.
Super fast possession. Yeah.
It's usually when teams, what they want to do is slow the game down and make it where, okay, Duke can't get X amount of possessions. And for us, it felt like once we got in that rut, especially when we went down 10, it felt like every possession, a guy wanted to be the hero and have a 10-point play to get us back to 0. I'm like, all right, let's wipe the slate clean. So they forced things. And what Lipscomb did, instead of saying, all right, let's slow them down and make it where they try to have as few possessions as possible, they said, no, speed it up. Make them think that, they can go faster to try and make up this deficit quickly. And because of that, Duke was forcing the basketball. They were making casual plays. They were making errant passes into the stands. They were, dribbling the basketball off of themselves or dribbling into the hands of the defense. They were making sloppy decisions that we try to force on the defense, on the offense when we're on defense. Like, we're the ones trying to do what Lipscomb did last night. And I give them credit for looking at that and saying, because the easy way to do this would be, Duke likes to go fast, so let's slow them down. And we're ready for that. This was a team that said, no, they're playing like some game. It's not here. Let them be in that world. Let's make them go faster because now they won't have a chance to think about it. And before you knew it, Jason, they were up 10 after being down 10, and it didn't feel like we had an answer to it other than to go faster, which is why I think there's always a limit to this. Like, even in the NBA can have sometimes what feels like 100 possessions in a basketball game because guys just go up and shoot. But even in the NBA, at a certain point, teams slow down and they run a half-court offense. This was a game where I felt that in the timeouts should have been reiterated. Guys, if there is nothing there, don't force it. Back it out. Run the offense. Every time we ran the half-court offense, it felt like we got a good shot. Every single time. But it felt like that was our last resort as opposed to our first option when there was nothing being presented to us by their defense.
I got a question for you. If you're John Shire and the coaching staff, after this game, are you like, burn the tape? We don't need to look at, guys, forget about that one. Put that aside. Or are you like, let's sit down and watch every one of these and figure out what the hell's going on? In other words, do you think this is a problem that Duke needs to fix going forward? Or is it just a one game, like, this was weird, coming off exam break, just an aberration, just things went wild, but we've seen enough of this team to know that this is not an issue over the long haul. Where are you on this?
So that's two different questions with two different answers. Here's why.
Go for it.
The answer to your second question, yes, I think this is something that's not going to show its ugly head many times. It's going to happen. We have some nights where we're sloppy with the basketball, but this is something that's easily correctable. The reason why I watched this entire tape is because I know Texas Tech is going to be watching this entire tape. I promise you that. They're going to figure out why Duke was so sloppy with the basketball, and maybe they will chalk it up to it was just a night coming off of exam break against a low-level team. They had we'll talk about it in the preview for Texas Tech later on in the week, but they had their struggles last night against Northern Colorado too for the very same reason. And we're going to be watching all that tape too to figure out where these can be holes that you can exploit. The reason why I watched this whole tape is because I want them to understand that this is not how we play basketball. We can, defense travels, but you can also play with poise, play with confidence, and play with control. And I think last night, for about 15 minutes of this game, we were not in control of this basketball game. And it took a long time for us to realize that we earned control back one possession at a time.
I've got no argument. I think that my answer would be, if I was Jon Scheyer, I don't think I would dwell on this. I just feel like it was such a weird aberration. And by the way, the fact that our point guard Caleb Foster had 0 turnovers, like a lot of it was Cam. I mean, to be honest, Cam had 6 turnovers this game, and some of them were just terrible. I mean, just awful kind of turnovers. I think if I'm Scheyer, I'm probably like, I can live with that. I've seen enough of these guys that this is not going to happen often. And it's not something that other teams can be able to replicate. I think the turnovers were more us than it was them. So I don't think, like you say, Texas Tech's going to watch this tape. And if they try and go, oh, we can do that Lipscomb did, I'm not sure that that's a formula for success, because I don't think Duke's going to do these things very much going forward. One other thing I had in the bad was I wanted to mention is fouling. Lipscomb shot 20 free throws in this game. That's a lot for a Duke opponent. Only we played 11 games now. Only 3 of our opponents have reached the 20 free throw mark: Texas, Howard, and Lipscomb. And if you look at our most recent games, the flurry of games, the Arkansas, Florida, Michigan State, against really, really good teams, Duke was in the low teens in terms of how many free throws our opponents took. I will admit that while the game was going on, I didn't notice it quite as much as I did in the post game, and I think it was very interesting. Several, like Jon Scheyer and the Duke players who were interviewed post game, all kind of talked about, we put them at the free throw line too much. We fouled too much, so that tells me that the team sort of recognized that was an issue for them. I just wanted to note it. It's easy, I think, with all the turnovers to think that that's the big story, but the fouls are also problematic.
I think the fouling was something that was evident during the game, and it's not in the number of fouls, it's in the timing of the fouls, right? We were fouling guys beyond the 3-point line. We were bailing guys out with fouls late in the shot clock. We were fouling guys that had nobody around them and it was clearly going to miss a shot. We sent them to the line where they're making a couple. I think those are where, and you mentioned, Cam had that one where he kind of reached out late in the shot clock, said dude was going to basically do a bailout 3, and he fouls the guy on the 3-point attempt by, holding on to his wrist. You had, again, a couple of players. I think Pat had one late in the shot clock. I think Slim had one on the perimeter where they kind of bailed out Lipscomb, which would have been a good possession for Duke. Okay, they're taking a shot, ill-advised shot, they're missing it, we're grabbing the rebound and going, and instead they're going to the free throw line to shoot a couple and prolong this comeback that we had. So I think the fouling was evident during the game in the timeliness of it, or the bad timing of a lot of these fouls. And again, that's mental. Those are, as you mentioned, these are not things that we see all the time. We're not bailing guys out all the time.
with fouls from beyond the arc and things like that, and send them to the free throw line for 3 shots. But it's something that we need to recognize. Hey, let's not make this become a trend, because the next game is a team that will make you pay for it. The game after that is a game where we're entering the ACC play, and every team in the ACC is capable, save for a couple, is capable of making you pay for having a sloppy game like we had last night. So that is where we learn from it. That's where we grow from it. And the great thing is now we get to see how these guys respond to it, because last year we had some games where we had some bad performances from players and then they responded. We've had some games this year from guys who had mediocre games to bad games, and they've responded to that by having a better output, better production the next game. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this team responds under the lights of Madison Square Garden on Saturday night.
There are 2 other guys I want to mention in the needs to work on, or the bad, depending on how you want to phrase it. And look, I know he got hurt in this game and missed some time because of it, but Nick Hamenia, 0 for 3 from the field, missed all 3 of his 3-pointers. Every single one of them was a wide open 3. Crazy, weird plus minus for Nick. So in a game where every single starter had a plus minus of at least plus 17, a game where Duke wins by 24 points, Nick's plus minus was negative 11. That's kind of hard to do.
And honestly, I don't think he was all there. Because I mean, when he fell early in the game, as we mentioned, he fell, kind of landed on the ground, but his head smacked the ground. I'm not saying that he was concussed or anything, but the key wasn't right when he did come back in the game, and I think the team recognized it. But it was hard to for him to fight through that. And again, this is something that you're going to learn. Sometimes you got to fight through it, and sometimes you need an adult to be like, nope, that's not what you're doing today. You're going to sit down. We're going to let everyone else kind of handle it from here. But yeah, it just didn't feel like he was 100% after that fall.
And then the other guy I wanted to mention was Dame Sarr. He got a 3-pointer very, very late in the game that helped out his box score. But he posted, I talked about plus minus, he posted a -6. Dame just never looked comfortable on offense, never looked comfortable handling the ball. Lots of fumbling when he had it in his hands. He had 3 turnovers that were just bad. You noticed each one of them. You're just like, ugh, really, man? He struggled to catch passes, struggled to finish around the rim. Although he had one play that was they threw a lob to him that was like impossible. I can't believe that he even came close to getting it. And Pat ended up getting the rebound and putting it in. I mean, Dame is still a truly remarkable athletic specimen out there, but it feels a little bit like he's just struggling to figure out what he can do on offense for this team. He's a good defender. He's long. He's going to get steals. He's going to create problems on defense. But his offense is just so far behind every other guy on this team at this point.
I would love during the holidays if Dame Sarr does not go home, which, it'd be great for him to go back to see family. I think that will help him because he's really struggling, I think, on the mental side of things right now, like on the basketball court, not anything off the court. I think when you see his confidence, it has waned since he has exited the starting lineup. And again, we saw this last year, right? The person I'm talking about that I hope he spends time with over the holidays is Caleb Foster, because Caleb Foster went through this exact same thing about figuring out what this new role is and how I can be confident in excelling in it and not worrying about getting my starting job back. Because every time he comes in the game, it feels like he's playing to try and get a starting job back. And I'm not saying that in a selfish way. I'm saying that in a role-defining kind of way. And because of that, he's struggling. He's making mental mistakes on the floor. He's not taking care of the basketball. He's, like, as you mentioned, the three turnovers that he had were all 3 turnovers that people were texting each other like, yo, what was that? Like this, we know he's better than that. And we've always said his offense was going to be raw and that it was a lot rawer than his defense. But where his confidence is waning is on the defensive end, because on the defensive end, he's making silly, decisions about where his footwork is, keeping guys in front of him, bailing out guys with late fouls. And that is compounding. So over the Texas Tech game is Saturday, and then after that they have a 11-day break until New Year's Eve, and when we get back on the basketball court. And I hope for him that he's able to spend some time to kind of reset and relearn his new role right now as a sub, because we're gonna need him come ACC season. We're gonna need him the rest of the way to be a confident Dame Sarr, which we saw, in spurts at the beginning of the season. I want to see more of that come out of him as his game develops, because just like last year, you're never going to know when Dame Sarr is going to be called upon to be thrust back into an opportunity where he has to be the man. You never know where that's going to come. I want him to be ready for that. That groundwork is laid now.
Hey, by the way, one name we haven't mentioned, I had him in my notes, but I somehow skipped over it. I wanted to mention him in the good earlier, was Caden Boozer, who finishes with 9 points, 4 of 6 field goals. Caden looked like he was looking for his shot a little more than usual, and I like that. His ability to get in the lane. Now, he also had 4 assists. He led the team in assists, and that is because when he gets in the lane, the defense is like, this is a problem moment. Mm-hmm. and that creates opportunities and openings for his teammates. Caden, by the way, should have had 5 assists, but there was a fast break where he threw a lob. Oh God, was it to Dame or I forget who it was? He threw a lob that was like 6 feet too high.
Oh yeah.
It was going to be spectacular though. I was like, oh, this is, and then Caden was like, what am I doing? But I did think Caden's had an up and down kind of season. Earlier in the year, Donald, you and I were talking about his plus minus after almost every game. There were Duke fans out there who were saying, I think Caden should be the starter and get more minutes than Caleb. And then Caleb really came on strong, and Caden felt like he'd regressed a little bit. I think it's very good for him to have a game like this where it feels like, far from regressing, this was Caden back to playing the way that we think he can. And there are still people out there who believe that Caden Boozer is, a huge key to this team really unlocking all its potential in the back half of the season. So I was very encouraged in a game where a lot of guys struggled. And again, Caden had some bad turnovers. Everybody did. I thought Caden had a pretty nice contest, and I feel bad that I didn't mention him earlier.
Yeah, I think, again, it's the funny thing is his performance in my mind was a little bit muted by the fact that I thought Caleb Foster did brilliantly, right? And did kind of the similar things to Caden, but without the turnovers. And that's not, again, I thought he had a good game. I think as he comes along, we're going to figure out, this two-headed monster here at point guard. Caleb's in the game, Caden Boozer's in the game. When both of them are in the game, how that rotation works and who needs to be around those two guys, whether they're on their court together or individually, to complement them. And I again, for an 11-0 team, we still have some things to work on, which I think is great. We haven't really tapped the full potential yet. We haven't played a 40-minute performance yet. And so these are things that we can continue to work on as we move along. Jason, let's move on to close out with our play of the game. And I will go first. At the 16-minute mark of the second half, Cam Boozer makes a layup. It was kind of a little running layup to make it 54-49. And Lipscomb, at that point, they were trying to stave off a Duke run. And so they tried to move very quickly. They inbound the ball. They rush it up half court. And as they pass the ball past half court, Slim times the play perfectly. He makes a great defensive play to steal the ball, goes the other way for a jam, makes it 56-49. And while it didn't necessarily feel like it at the time, when you look back now, that was the point Duke took control of the basketball game. Lipscomb never got within like 5 the rest of the game, and then we eventually were able to pull away. But that, again, we needed a spark. And even immediately, like Duke social media was on it and said, like, Slim provides the spark in the second half. That was the spark, I think, that made Duke take control of the basketball game and made it where we were able to affect our will upon Lipscomb instead of the other way around.
And it's funny, I had a pair of Slim three-pointers as my play of the game. At 8:50 and at 8:20, back-to-back possessions, Slim buried three-pointers, the second of which was from a few steps outside the three-point line.
Yeah.
and the Duke lead was like 10 points. It was one of those games where Lipscomb was kind of hanging around. And after he hit those 2 3-pointers, you were like, okay, well, the game went from I'm a little worried to I got nothing to worry about. And so I gave Slim my play of the game there. There were a lot of times where I was like, this is going to be the play of the game. And then Duke wouldn't finish it.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh, well.
A couple of those alley-oops that went, 10 feet out of bounds. There were definitely some of those plays. Or there was a couple cross-court plays where I thought we moved the ball well, and then it ended by somebody, ball going through somebody's hands or throwing the ball away. The turnovers were a big story of this game. And again, hats off to Lipscomb for coming into Cameron and playing the way they did. John Shire led his remarks by commenting on how they presented a challenge for us, and he was glad that we got this challenge. This is a team that you see in the first, maybe even the second round of the NCAA tournament if you have an upset, and we'll be ready for that team next time they come around. That will do it for this episode of the Duke Basketball Roundup. We'll be back later on this week to preview the Texas Tech game coming up this weekend at Madison Square Garden. I will be in the building. I'm not going to tell you where because I don't know where my tickets are yet, but we will talk about that at another date. He's Jason. I'm Donald. This is the Duke Band. We're signing off. They're playing us out and taking us to the Garden.